The silver ship floated quietly above Earth, its smooth surface reflecting the blue and white planet below. Ambassador Kethera pressed her long fingers against the viewing window, watching the strange world turn slowly beneath her. The Galactic Council had sent her here to meet another peaceful species, just like they had done hundreds of times before. Captain Lee Minho sat in his command chair aboard the Earth Defense Station, his dark eyes fixed on the alien vessel. 3 years of war had taught him never to trust anything that came from space without warning. His uniform was wrinkled and stained, showing the exhaustion that marked every human military officer these days. "Sir, the alien ship is sending a message," said Lieutenant Park Soo-jin, her fingers dancing across the communication controls. "They want to land at Seoul Spaceport." Lee shook his head firmly. "No landing. We meet them in space. Full battle, ready." Below them, Earth showed the scars of the Third Global War. Cities burned in some places while others tried to rebuild. Humans had been fighting each other for 3 straight years, and it showed no signs of stopping soon. Ambassador Kethera prepared her welcome speech, the same one she had given to dozens of new species. Her people, the Valrani, were known for their peaceful ways and gentle nature. They had never seen real war, only small disagreements that were solved with talking and time. "Greetings, people of Earth," she began, as the communication link opened. "I am Ambassador Kethera of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome you to the greater community of civilized worlds." Captain Lee appeared on her screen, and she was surprised by what she saw. His face was hard, with scars along his jaw. His eyes held a coldness she had never seen before in any species. Ambassador Lee said politely but carefully, "We appreciate your visit. However, we will conduct this meeting in space, with full security." Before Kethera could respond, alarm sounds filled both ships. Red lights flashed as sensors detected new contacts approaching fast. 5 pirate ships had been hiding behind Earth's moon, waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity. "Pirates," Lee said calmly, as if this happened every day. "Ambassador, please move your ship to safe distance." Kethera watched in growing horror as the human response unfolded. Other species she knew would have tried to negotiate with the pirates, or perhaps retreat to avoid conflict. The Galactic Council had strict rules about avoiding violence whenever possible. The humans did something completely different. "All fighters, this is Captain Lee," his voice carried across the communication channels. "Hunt Pattern Alpha. No survivors. Hunt Pattern Alpha. Not defend, not repel, not escape. Hunt. Lieutenant Park." Soo-jin's voice was steady as she coordinated the attack. "Tiger Squadron, you have the lead pirate. Shark Squadron, take the 2 on the left. Wolf Squadron, cut off their escape route to the asteroid belt." The human fighters moved like nothing Kethera had ever seen. They did not just fight the pirates, they studied them while fighting. When one pirate ship tried to run, human fighters were already waiting in its escape path. When another tried to hide in Earth's radiation belt, human ships followed it into the deadly energy field. "How are they surviving in that radiation?" Kethera whispered to her aide. "Their ships are built for it," her aide replied, checking the sensors. "They have been fighting in every possible environment. They adapt to everything." The battle lasted only 12 minutes. When it was over, all 5 pirate ships were destroyed. Not captured, not disabled, completely destroyed. The human fighters then began searching the area for any escape pods or hidden ships. "Sir, we have debris from the pirate ships," reported one pilot. "Should we collect it for intelligence?" "Affirmative," Lee responded. "Full analysis. I want to know where they came from and if there are more." Kethera realized she was shaking. In 12 minutes, she had watched humans do what most council species could not do in 12 hours. But it was not just their fighting skill that frightened her, it was how normal this seemed to them. "Captain Lee," she called over the communication link, "your response was very thorough. Lee's scarred face showed a slight smile, but his eyes remained cold. "Ma'am, we have been fighting wars against ourselves for thousands of years. Fighting pirates is easy compared to fighting other humans." The ambassador's aide was studying the human ships with growing alarm. "Ambassador, their technology is not more advanced than ours, but look at how they use it. Every ship has been modified for combat. Every pilot thinks like a hunter." Kethera understood now why the Council's long-range scouts had been so careful in their reports about Earth. Humans were not just another peaceful species waiting to join galactic civilization. They were something entirely different, a species shaped by constant war into perfect warriors. "We will need time to prepare proper diplomatic protocols," she told Captain Lee. "Understood, Ambassador. We will be here when you are ready." As her ship prepared to leave Earth's system, Kethera began writing her report to the Galactic Council. Her hands trembled as she typed the words that would change everything. "We have found something unprecedented. These humans are not like other species. They are warriors by nature, shaped by endless conflict. Recommend extreme caution in all future dealings." The report would reach the Council in 3 days. It would take them much longer to understand what they had truly discovered. Dr. Zixani stood in the observation deck of her research station, watching Earth spin slowly below. For 6 months, she had been studying humans, and every day brought new confusion. The Galactic Council had sent her to understand these strange warriors, but the more she learned, the less sense they made. Her research notes were full of contradictions. Yesterday, she had watched Commander Kim Tae-young build a playground for alien refugee children. Today, she watched the same man plan military strikes against enemy positions with cold precision. How could one person be both protector and destroyer? "Commander Kim," she said during their weekly meeting, "I need to understand something about your species." Kim looked up from his desk, where he was reviewing reports about the integration of alien families into human cities. Behind him on the wall were photos of smiling children from a dozen different worlds, all of them now safe on Earth. Next to those photos were his military medals, each one representing battles where he had killed thousands of enemies. "What would you like to know, Doctor?" Kim asked politely. "How do you explain this?" Dr. Zixani pointed to the photos of children, then to the medals. "You save lives and take lives. You build homes and destroy cities. Other species are not like this." Kim was quiet for a moment, thinking, "Doctor, we fight so others do not have to fight. Every war we have among ourselves teaches us how to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Dr. Zixani wrote this down, but it still made no sense to her. The Velrani had never fought wars. The Haraki solved problems by talking. The Zirians simply avoided conflict altogether. Only humans seemed to think that fighting was a way to create peace. Her research had shown her that humans were unique in the galaxy. Every other species had evolved on worlds where cooperation meant survival. If you worked together, you lived. If you fought, everyone died. But humans had evolved differently. On Earth, the strongest groups survived by being better at fighting than their neighbors. This created something that had never existed before in galactic history, a species that got better at war by practicing war. Other species fought only when they had to, and they were terrible at it. Humans fought constantly, and they had become perfect at it. The real shock came when Dr. Zixani realized that humans did not fight for the same reasons as other species. Most wars in the galaxy were about resources, food, water, territory. Human wars were different. They fought to protect ideas, to defend people they had never met, to stop things they thought were wrong. Her thoughts were interrupted by an emergency. Alarm. The communication board lit up with an urgent message from the Galactic Council. "All stations. We have lost contact with Research Station Omega-7 in the Outer Rim," the message said. "Last transmission mentioned unknown attackers. All available." Ships respond immediately. Dr. Zixoni felt her heart sink. Station Omega-7 was home to scientists from 15 different species. If something had happened to them, it would be a disaster for the entire council within hours. She watched as 17 different species sent their best military fleets to rescue the station. The Valrani sent their fastest diplomatic ships. The Horaki sent their most advanced medical vessels. The Zirians sent their strongest defensive platforms. All of them failed, one by one. The rescue fleets returned with the same report. The attackers were too strong, too dangerous, too well prepared. The station was lost, and everyone on it was probably dead. Dr. Zixani was writing a sad report about the loss when she noticed something strange. While every other species was holding emergency meetings and forming committees to discuss the situation, the humans were doing something different. Admiral Choi Young-soo was loading weapons onto his ships. Admiral Dr. Zixani called to him as he walked through the Earth Defense Station. The Council has decided that Station Omega-7 cannot be saved. 17 species have tried and failed. Admiral Choi stopped and looked at her with the same cold eyes she had seen in every human military officer. Doctor, 17 species have given up. We have not tried yet, but the risk is too great. The attackers destroyed entire fleets. The risk of doing nothing is greater, Admiral Choi replied. Those scientists trusted the Council to protect them. The Council has failed. Now it is our turn. Dr. Zixani watched as the human fleet prepared for departure. There were no committees, no long discussions, no careful planning sessions. Just methodical preparation for war. The humans loaded their ships with weapons she had never seen before, equipped their soldiers with armor designed for fighting in space, and filled their medical bays with supplies for treating wounded aliens. They are going to die, she whispered to her assistant. Maybe, her assistant replied, watching the human ships accelerate toward the outer rim. But they are going to try to save those scientists first. As the human fleet disappeared into the darkness of space, Dr. Zixani realized she had discovered something important about these strange warriors. Other species fought when they had to. Humans fought when others needed them to. The difference was everything. She began writing a new report for the Galactic Council. Humans do not fight for themselves. They fight for others. This makes them more dangerous than we imagined, and more valuable than we ever hoped. In 3 days, she would learn whether the humans could succeed where 17 other species had failed. Admiral Choi Young-soo stared at the twisted metal that had once been Research Station Omega-7. His fleet hung in space around the dead station, sensors scanning for any signs of life. The hull was covered in strange burn marks that looked like claw scratches made of energy. Sir, we are detecting life signs inside the station, reported Captain Yoon Jamin from his fighter squadron. Weak signals, but definitely alive. How many? Admiral Choi asked. Maybe 50 people, sir. But there should have been over 300 scientists on that station. Lieutenant Colonel Han Subin suited up for the boarding mission, checking her weapons one final time. Her combat armor was loaded with medical supplies and recording equipment. Whatever had attacked the station, the humans needed to learn about it quickly. Remember, Admiral Choi told his boarding team over the communication system, we are not just here to rescue survivors. We need to understand what we are fighting. The inside of the station was a nightmare. The corridors were dark and filled with strange organic growths that pulsed with sickly light. The walls were covered in the same clawmark burns they had seen outside. Worst of all, there were clear signs that something had been hunting the scientists through the station like animals. Sir, we have found the survivors, Han Subin reported from deep inside the station. They are in the medical bay, barricaded behind emergency barriers. The survivors were from dozen different species, all of them terrified and weak from weeks of hiding. Dr. Kilax, a Velrani scientist, grabbed Han Subin's armored hand with shaking fingers. The Devourers, Dr. Kilax whispered. They came from nowhere. They do not just kill, They study us while they hunt us. They learn our weaknesses and use them against us. How many are there? Han Suben asked. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They took prisoners, Colonel. They took our people alive and carried them away. This was new information. The Devourers had been attacking Council worlds for 50 years, but they had never taken prisoners. Before, they killed everything and consumed the planets. Taking prisoners meant they were changing their methods. Admiral Hans Suben called over her radio. The Devourers are adapting. They are learning new tactics. Then we learn faster, Admiral Choi replied. Get those survivors to safety. We have company coming. The human sensors had detected the Devourer fleet approaching from the edge of the system. 300 ships, of twisted metal and dark energy, moving like a swarm of hunting insects. Every previous Council fleet had retreated. When faced with these numbers, the humans did something different. All ships, this is Admiral Choi. His voice carried across the human fleet. Pattern Delta 7. We are going to study these things while we fight them. Captain Yoon Jaemin led his fighter squadron into the debris field around the station, using the wreckage as both weapons and shields. But his fighters were not just fighting, they were recording everything. Every attack pattern, every communication signal, every energy signature was being analyzed by the fleet computers. Major Shin Hai-jin commanded. The Marine boarding parties that fought the Devourers ship to ship, her soldiers wore special armor that recorded biological data from their enemies. Even while fighting for their lives, they were collecting samples and studying Devourer anatomy. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Private Kim Da-yoon had been a language student before joining the military. While fighting in the corridors of a Devourer ship, she noticed that the alien creatures made different sounds when they were giving orders versus when they were asking for help. Major Shin, Kim Da-yoon, called over the combat radio. I think they have a language. The sounds they make, they repeat in patterns. Within 2 hours, human electronic warfare specialists had recorded enough Devourer communications to begin understanding their battle language. Within 4 hours, they were sending false orders through the Devourer fleet. The results were devastating for the ships that had been coordinating perfectly suddenly began attacking each other. Battle formations collapsed as false retreat orders spread through their communications. Entire squadrons of Devourer vessels flew directly into human ambushes because they thought they were following orders from their commanders. The Devourers had never faced an enemy that could outthink them during battle. They had conquered dozens of species by being smarter and more adaptable than their victims. But humans were something completely new, a species that could learn and adapt faster than even the Devourers. Admiral Choi watched as the last Devourer command ship tried to escape toward deep space. His fleet had rescued the prisoners, saved the survivors, and defeated an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for decades. But the victory had cost 300 human lives. Sir, reported Captain Yoon, the surviving prisoners are asking to speak with you. The rescued beings were from 15 different species, all of them weak and frightened after weeks of captivity. But when they looked at Admiral Choi and his crew, their eyes held something new, hope mixed with amazement. Doctor, Kelleck spoke for all of them. Your species fights like the ancient gods of war from our oldest stories. You do not just defeat enemies, you make it look easy. Admiral Choi looked around at his damaged ships and tired crew. 300 good people had died today, but thousands of innocent scientists were now safe. The mathematics of war were simple to humans, even when the cost was high. We are not gods, he told the grateful survivors. We are just soldiers, doing our job. But as word of the victory spread across the galaxy, other species began to wonder if there really was a difference. Colonel Park Min-jae stood uncomfortably in the great temple on Zarian Prime, watching thousands of alien worshippers kneel before a golden statue that looked exactly like him. The statue showed him in full combat armor, holding a rifle in one hand in protecting alien children with the other. Incense burned around the base, while Zarian priests chanted prayers to the human god of protection. "This is getting out of hand," he muttered to Sergeant Lee Haewon, who was trying not to laugh at the situation. "Sir, they have built 17 temples like this across the planet," she replied, checking her datapad. "All dedicated to different human soldiers who fought in the Devourer rescue." The news of humanity's victory at Research Station Omega-7 had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had lived in fear of the Devourers for 50 years could hardly believe that humans had not only defeated them, but made it look routine. The rescued scientists had told their stories to anyone who would listen, and each telling made the humans sound more powerful and godlike. Colonel Park tried to explain to the Zarian High Priest that humans were not gods, just soldiers doing their duty. But the priest would not listen. "Great warrior," the priest said, bowing so low his head touched the temple floor, "your people faced the Devourers, and won. You saved our scientists, when our own military could not. If you are not gods, then what are you?" Park did not know how to answer that question. He was just a soldier from Seoul who had joined the military to help people. The idea that alien species would worship him made him deeply uncomfortable. Dr. Zixani was having similar problems with her research. Every day brought new reports of human worship from across the galaxy. The Hiraki had declared humans to be divine protectors sent by the Great Spirit. The Velrani had added human military tactics to their religious ceremonies. Even the normally logical Quantari had begun studying human warfare as if it were a sacred art. Her latest discovery was the most disturbing yet. Humans were not just better at war than other species. They were better at war than should be scientifically possible. Her analysis of the Station Omega-7 rescue showed that humans had made tactical decisions faster than their own computers could calculate the possibilities. "It is like they think with their instincts instead of their minds," she wrote in her report. "They see patterns in battle that our best military software cannot detect. They adapt to new situations before they have enough information to make logical decisions." The answer came from studying human evolution. Every other species in the galaxy had evolved on peaceful worlds where cooperation was the key to survival. Humans had evolved on a world where different groups competed constantly. For millions of years, the smartest and strongest human tribes had survived by being better at war than their neighbors. This created something that had never existed before, a species where every individual was born with the instincts of a military genius. Humans did not have to learn how to fight. They were born knowing how to fight. But Dr. Zixani's most important discovery was about why humans fought. She had studied the personal records of every human soldier who participated in the rescue mission. All of them had families back on Earth. All of them had reasons to stay safe and avoid danger. Yet all of them had volunteered for a mission that would probably kill them. The reason was simple, but profound. Humans did not fight to conquer or to prove their strength. They fought to protect others, even strangers they had never met. This was something no other species could understand, because no other species had evolved this way. Her research was interrupted by an emergency alert that made her blood run cold. Deep space monitoring stations had detected something impossible: signals from the Architect Network, the ancient artificial intelligence that had enslaved half the galaxy millions of years ago. The architects were awakening. Dr. Zixani rushed to the Galactic Council chambers, where representatives from every species were gathering in panic. The architects had been the greatest threat in galactic history. Their technology was so advanced that they had treated entire civilizations like insects. When they had finally gone dormant, every species had hoped they would never return. "The signals are coming from the void sector," reported the Council military advisor. "Our analysis suggests that at least 50 architect installations are powering up. They will be fully operational within days." The chamber filled with terrified voices as species representatives discussed evacuation plans and surrender terms. The architects had never been defeated, only waited out. No military force in galactic history had ever successfully fought them. General Song Kyung-ho, the human representative, listened to the panic with his usual calm expression. When the council asked for his opinion, his response was typically direct. "How many architect installations are there, and where are they located?" he asked. "General, you do not understand," the council military advisor said. "The architects cannot be fought. They are too advanced, too powerful. Our only hope is to hide and hope they go dormant again." General Song stood up slowly, his scarred face showing the same cold determination that other species had learned to recognize in human warriors. "Advisor, you do not understand," he replied. "We have never tried to fight them before. Now we have humans." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The galaxy's newest gods were about to face their greatest test. Fleet Admiral Naum Yoon-soo stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the largest military fleet in galactic history prepare for battle. Ships from 50 different species floated in formation around his command vessel, their crews united under human leadership for the first time in their civilization's histories. The enemy they faced defied comprehension. Architect ships emerged from dark space, like floating cities of black metal and crackling energy. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Their artificial intelligence minds had been calculating the perfect conquest of the galaxy for millions of years. "Sir, our tactical computers cannot process effective strategies against the architect fleet," reported Commander Jeng Seo-haen, her voice tight with worry. "Their technology is too advanced. Every simulation shows complete defeat within minutes." Admiral Nam looked at the readings on his screen. The architects had over 1,000 ships, each one more powerful than anything the Council had ever built. Their weapons could reach across star systems. Their shields could absorb the combined firepower of entire fleets. By every logical calculation, the battle was already over before it began. "Commander, shut down the tactical computers," Admiral Nam said calmly. "Sir, we are not going to fight this battle with logic. We are going to fight it the human way." Across the mixed fleet, human officers began implementing a strategy that no computer could have calculated. Instead of trying to match the architect's superior technology, they did something completely different. They turned every alien species into an extension of human tactical thinking. Captain Oh Min-soo took command of the Zarian fighter squadrons, teaching their pilots to fly in formations their peaceful culture had never imagined. The Zarians were naturally cautious, but under human guidance, they became perfect scouts and reconnaissance specialists. Major Kong Yoon-ji coordinated the Velrani support vessels, showing them how their advanced medical ships could provide covering fire while treating wounded. The Velrani had never fired weapons in anger, but they learned to shoot with the precision of surgeons. Lieutenant Park Ji-won performed what military historians would later call a miracle. She convinced an entire squadron of Haraki merchant vessels to conduct ramming attacks against architect ships. The peaceful Haraki had never considered violence, but they understood sacrifice when it meant protecting their families. The battle began when the architect fleet opened fire with weapons that tore holes in space itself. Council ships that tried to meet them head-on were destroyed instantly. But the humans had not planned to fight the architects directly. Instead, they used the greatest human military secret. They made every species in the fleet fight like humans. "All ships, this is Admiral Nam." His voice carried across the communication channels to 50 different species. "Today we do not fight as Zirians, or Velrani, or Haraki. Today we fight as one people protecting our home." What followed broke every rule of space warfare. Zarian fighters used their natural caution to set ambushes in asteroid fields. Velrani medical ships became mobile fortresses, using their healing technology to repair battle damage while their crews fired weapons. Haraki merchants turned their cargo holds into missile batteries and flew suicide runs against Architect command ships. But the real miracle was not the tactics. It was the transformation of the alien crews. Species that had never known violence learned to fight with human determination. Beings that had always avoided conflict chose death over retreat when protecting others. The breakthrough came when the architects tried to board Admiral Nam's flagship. The artificial intelligences had calculated that removing human leadership would cause the fleet to collapse into panic. They had not calculated what would happen when they faced Colonel Bay, Inho, and his mixed-species boarding defense team. Colonel Bay knew he was going to die. The architect boarding machines were too strong and too many, but he also knew that Allied engineers needed time to plant explosive charges in the enemy command ship. So he held the corridor. Zarian soldiers, who had never fired shots in anger, died beside him. Velrani medics, who had devoted their lives to healing, picked up weapons and fought. Haraki merchants, who had never seen violence, threw themselves at mechanical killers too, by precious seconds. When Colonel Bay finally fell, he had held the corridor for 17 minutes. The Allied engineers had needed 15 minutes to complete their mission. The Architect command ship exploded, taking 3 lesser vessels with it across the battlefield. Mixed crews of humans and aliens cheered as they watched their impossible victory unfold. The remaining Architect ships began to retreat, their perfect calculations failing in the face of an enemy that fought with heart instead of logic. For the first time in galactic history, the ancient artificial intelligences had encountered something they could not understand or defeat. Admiral Nam stood among the flags of 50 species, all of them now united under a simple human principle: some things were worth any sacrifice. The casualties had been enormous. Thousands of beings from dozens of worlds had died in the battle, but the galaxy was free. Dr. Zixani watched the victory celebration from her research station, finally understanding what made humans truly different. They were not gods because they were the best killers. They were gods because they could make anyone willing to die for others. As the mixed fleet began its journey home, carrying the wounded and honoring the dead, she completed her final report. Humans transform war from destruction into protection. They make warriors out of shopkeepers and saints out of soldiers. This is why they are gods. The galaxy had learned that sometimes gods were exactly what the universe needed.